And welcome into the Hustle Show podcast here on this Monday, November 14th. I am Mark Zinno for another Hustle Short here with my good partner in crime, my best friend, my confidant, my everything. You know, it's like when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think of is Brian Power, and right here he is. He's right here with us. You are you're an outstanding human being, a wonderful man, a fantastic handicapper, and I couldn't think of anybody else I'd rather do a Hustle Short with than you.
I would like to now unplug my headphones so my wife, who's working upstairs, can hear all those lovely things you just said about me, because that's at least someone feels that way, Mark. Oh, it's great to be here, though, on a Monday. It was a great NFL Sunday. I know it was a phenomenal NFL Sunday for you. You swept the board. I lost one game. You won't believe who I lost going against. I'll give you a clue. Yes, they wear black and gold.
Yes, there you go. The Pittsburgh Steelers.
But what, we were a combined 7-1 yesterday, the two of us in the NFL. So fun times, man. Fun times.
And not only that, we're going to try to keep the run going. We have been very successful over the last 5 weeks in the prop market. We've hit a prop each of the last 5 weeks. So we're going to try to make it 6 in a row here. We have Monday Night Football, the Broncos and Bills from Buffalo, with the Bills laying 7 here in this game. So we're going to stay in the prop market. I'll tee it up to you there, Brian Power. Where are you looking?
All right. Well, I do have a prop, as I always do every Monday. But let's just talk about the game just in full here. Full disclosure, in terms of what I've given out to my clients, I'll let everyone know I have the Bills. It's the second leg of a teaser. I already cashed the first leg on a nice run with NFL teasers overall, 10-2 with those. So I just need the Bills to win tonight, Mark, which feels pretty good. I like that position. And why I decided to tease them rather than lay the 7, that should be pretty obvious, right? It's a lot better just needing a team to win than winning by more than a touchdown. But I do have my concerns with this Bills defense, what we've seen in recent weeks. To start the year, they were top 5 in DVOA. Injury bug hits hard. Milano, Daquan Jones, Tre'Davious White, all out. They've been bottom 5 defensively in DVOA since week 5. That is a major concern. Now, I will say this. The Broncos, in prime time when Russell Wilson starts, they average only 12 points per game. That's not good. So maybe this is a reprieve for this Bills defense. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But what I do know is you would have to go back to week 4 to find the last time the Bills won a game by more than 6 points. That was, of course, when they beat Miami 48-20 in a real statement game. That was a 5% winner for me on the Bills. Oh, by the way, -2.5. But I just do think, though, and I'd be interested to get your feedback on this. Man, I think this spread should be higher, actually. Even though I'm teasing, I look at this spread, and the Bills are a top 5 team in my power ratings. The Broncos are bottom 6. So you would think with that being the case, the spread would be more than 7. But I don't know. I'm cool with my tease. And the prop that I will give out here is Dalton Kincaid, over 52.5 receiving yards. He's, since Knox went down with an injury, Kincaid is averaging 73.4 receiving yards his last 3 games. He's had 75 against New England, 65 against Tampa, 81 against Cincy. Again, the total is just 52.5 here. It is juiced heavy towards the over, -135. So I would suspect we may see this number move. Remember, a couple weeks ago, we gave up Josh Jacobs under the rushing total. That number moved a lot. This could do the same thing. So if you like Dalton Kincaid over his receiving yards, I would jump on that now. It's correlated with the idea that the Bills are going to win this game. And that's what I got to say about that, Mark. Kincaid over 52.5 yards receiving, and the Bills are going to win. Who needs him to cover if we just need him to win?
No, 100%. And you know, I agree with you in the game script here that Buffalo has struggled to win by margin. However, Buffalo has also excelled in these spots where they end up taking on a weaker team and bully the hell out of them, right? Like, we've seen that. We know that Buffalo, you know, obviously they played poorly last week against Cincinnati in a game that you and I both thought the Bills would win, and they haven't looked good at certain times. They struggled against Jacksonville. Granted, that game was in London, which I don't try to put too much stock into. But, you know, typically after the Bills have a bad game, they come out and have a really good one. Like, go back to week 1 after they lost to the Jets. What did they do to the Raiders next week? They absolutely punished them. Right? They punished a bad team like the Commanders. They've punished bad teams all year long. So I tend to agree with you here that this may be a spot where the Bills probably should be favored a little bit higher, but might be a decent buy low spot on the Buffalo Bills. Speaking of buying low, it doesn't get much lower when it comes to quarterbacks than the guy that I'm going to back tonight, Russell Wilson, for my prop here. Because, look, you know, Russell obviously is not what he was several years ago. We know that. But he's quarterbacking an offense right now that also isn't really something to get excited about. But I think we've found a way to play him here. Now, Russell Wilson has gone over his rushing yards prop in 4 consecutive weeks. His total for tonight is 19.5. Shop around. I saw some 21s out there as well, but look around for the lowest number you can get. Gone over 19.5 in 4 straight games. And one of the reasons he's running more this year is because of the pressure that he's been seeing. Now, in the last 4 games, he's faced the Chiefs twice, the Jets, and the Packers. The Chiefs and Jets are both top 5 in pressure rate in the NFL, and the Packers come in 11th in pressure rate. Buffalo Bills, where are they? 4th overall in pressure rate in the NFL, so I expect that Wilson will take off and run. Now, I know the Bills, if you look it up, don't give up a ton of rushing yards to quarterbacks. They only allow about 13 rushing yards per game on average, but this is a spot where Wilson knows how to keep plays alive with his legs, and I think he's going to need to do so in this game here if he'd like to. With the weather and the elements, it's not going to surprise me to see that Russell Wilson would take off and run here in this spot. So I think, 2 rushes, I think probably should get us home for Russell Wilson. I think that happens here, and we get to at least 20 here. So give me over 19.5 rushing yards for Russell Wilson for my prop here in the Monday Night Football game, Brian Power.
Yeah, I want to throw a random question at you here. So you like an over on a player prop. I like an over on a player prop. We're on different teams with our overs. Everybody knows about this primetime under trend, right? 24-7 this year now, 10 straight unders after that Raiders Jets snooze fest last night, pardon me. We have a pretty high total here though, 47.5. Is this the game that snaps the under streak? I don't have a play on the total tonight, but I'm kind of expecting points to be. I know I mentioned Denver has only averaged 12 points per game in primetime with Wilson as the starter, but with Denver's defense is not good. They give up a lot of rushing yards. And I know that, we're only, halfway through the season, a little over halfway. So their numbers are skewed by that disaster against Miami when they gave up 70 points, right? But these are two defenses that have not been good. And this could be the game, I think, that maybe snaps the primetime under streak. Full disclosure, though, not on the over, personally.
Well, if it does, my opinion is it's going to be one-sided. And you have to worry about blowouts because blowouts typically favor the under because both teams stop trying because they don't have to because the game is already in hand, right? If this thing is going to go over 47, it's because the Bills are at 35 on their own, 34, 35 on their own. Like that's kind of what my estimation here is that Broncos defense, and look at the Bills the last couple of weeks. They scored 18 against Cincy, only scored 24 against Tampa, scored 25 against New England, and 14 against the Giants. The last 5 and even the 20 against Jacksonville, the last 5 weeks of Buffalo's offense have not been kind. You talked about the injuries and everything that they're dealing with. Now they lose Dawson Knox. He's on the injured reserve as well, which I know helps out the Dalton Kincaid prop, but still, they just haven't really clicked offensively in the past couple of weeks. Part of me, again, worries, about if you're going to take the under. The Bills have 35 sitting in their back pocket as good as anybody in this league does. Right? When they score, it comes in bunches and it can come fast. They certainly have guys who can stretch the field and Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. I mean, there's a lot of weapons here to ignore, or you have to hope, rather, that would not have a good night. There's too many weapons to ignore them all, so to speak, is what I was trying to say. But, yeah, I don't know that I would feel great on the under. This total is something that I think, is not worth my energy and effort given how high it is and how poorly the Bills have played, because just when you think the Bills are down and out, this is the kind of game where they remind everybody, hey, we're still one of the better teams in the league.
Yeah, and just one last note with the under, these primetime unders, throughout the league, there's been a lot of low totals in these because there's been terrible teams involved, right? We see Carolina and Chicago Thursday night, the Jets and Raiders last night, and so they're going up
3 times.
Yeah, but this game, people are going to see. It's oh my God, there's 10 games in a row, 10 primetime games in a row that have gone under, and this total's 47.5. That's way higher than most primetime totals. I do think it's 47.5 for a reason. Like you said, Buffalo, while maybe the offense hasn't been what it once was the last 5 weeks, they're certainly capable of putting points on the board against a defense that, again, is dead last in the league in many categories. And like I said at the top, the Bills' defense over the last 5 weeks has really struggled because of injuries. So maybe Denver can if Denver gets to 20, then this game is going over, I would imagine.
I would think so. However, 27-20 keeps you under. I mean, 47 is a key total number, as is 48 to a certain extent. That's the hard part with this number, right? Because 47 and 48 are both key totals when it comes to it. You're not below 47 and you're not above 48. So you're in that window where there's a variance of possibilities depending on the number you get that could either put you on the right side or the wrong side of this thing. And all it takes is one missed extra point to go from 28 to 20 to 27 to 20. And all of a sudden you're in a whole different world, right? So, it's a tough number to call and a tough total to call. All right, quickly here, you and I will pivot here a little bit and look to the rest of the week in the NFL and some of the games that are popping up on the schedule, which again, I think, it's very interesting to me. Some of the games that we're going to look at this week, just when you think, things are starting to settle in with some of these teams, you really scratch your head at some of the things that happened this past week. One of the bigger head scratchers, not necessarily because I played, it's not that the Cincinnati Bengals didn't cover the game, that they didn't win the game at all. And so you're looking at a Bengals team right now that, was good enough to beat the Niners and good enough to beat the Bills, and yet lost to a rookie quarterback in the Texans at home, in a game where their defense gave up 30-plus points. So I'm going to look to the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens coming up on Thursday night. Now, a couple of things here. I've already locked in Cincinnati +4. I'll say that at the outright. It'll be a client play. I can tell you right now that Cincinnati +4 is going to be a client play for me. And I think that number is going to be gone if it's not gone already. Because quickly it's going to come down to 3.5. Now, Cincinnati has since Joe Burrow has taken over, has seemed to have had the Ravens number, period. They've won 4 of the last 5 against them. And I know they lost the game earlier this year, 27-24. However, that was week 2 of the league, week 2 of the season. We know that Joe Burrow was not 100% in that game. Clearly, he wasn't 100% in the first 3 games. And the Bengals ended up losing that game. Flip it over, the games in Baltimore, the Ravens are a favorite now. Cincinnati has won 3 straight in Baltimore. And this is a Bengals team right now that is more desperate, I think, than the Ravens are. The Bengals are 0-2 in the division. The Bengals fall to 0-3. They could kiss their playoff chances goodbye, especially in that division where you still have Cleveland. And I don't even want to tell you, Brian Power, about Pittsburgh, who's 6-3 right now. But you have those 2 teams right there. My guess is the Steelers actually end up finishing last in this division, much to Brian Power's delight. All that said, this is a very big, important spot for the Cincinnati Bengals. They've had the Ravens number. They're catching points. I think 4 was a great number to get it at because this could be a 24-20 type game when it's all said and done. So I think the 3.5 versus 4 matters when you talk about key numbers here in the NFL. But I think the Bengals are the more desperate team. And, oh, by the way, the Ravens lost both of their tackles in the game against the Browns. Part of the reason why they blew that lead to Cleveland was they lost their tackles. I wouldn't expect either one of them to play in a 3-day turnaround on a short week. So the Ravens are going to be shorthanded. Give me the Bengals +4.
Okay, so you want to look at one division matchup. All right, I'm going to look at a different division, the NFC East. And it's the NFC least with these 2 teams, Commanders, Giants, okay? And we're going to learn something here. Now, this isn't a horrifying game, right, that only I would bring up. But here's the thing. We're going to learn just how much worse, if like we think they are, the Giants are than the rest of the league. Because I look at this number. It jumped out at me. I said, Washington's -10. The Commanders should not be laying 10 points to a professional football team. It just shouldn't happen. I mean, they're a bottom 5 team. If you're a bottom 5 team in the league, you should not be laying more than 7. Now, the Giants are last. They're dead last. Tommy DeVito, my God. I mean, just when you think it couldn't get more sad, I'm watching the game yesterday. I know that you had the Cowboys in the first half, but I'm watching that game and the announcers are like, yeah, Tommy DeVito's still living at home with his parents and he's loving it. I'm like, my God. I mean, God bless you if you still are, but I mean, this guy's talking about his mom doing his laundry. He can't throw for 100 yards. What a sad day. What a sad time it is to be a New York Giants fan. But Mark, I got to tell you, I am tempted to take the 10 with the G-men in this game because and Ralph Michaels who has all these great trends he tweets out. He just tweeted out that the Commanders as a big favorite have been a disaster. They're 1-6. I don't have it in front of me because we're recording and I forgot to jot it down. But the Commanders are a disaster when they're laying points. They cannot protect Sam Howell. Okay. And the Giants did. I mean, granted, it was garbage time when the Cowboys had the game in hand and didn't care anymore. But DeVito maybe got some confidence leading the team to the end zone yesterday against the Cowboys. I just do not think the Washington Commanders should be laying 10 points to another professional football team. And I'm really tempted here to go G-Man plus the 10 because I don't know, man. Bad teams don't cover big spreads. They just don't.
No, they don't. And the Giants have typically played very well in the Daniel Jones era against the Washington football team Commanders, formerly known as Redskins team, whatever you want to call it. So they've always played very well against them and played well in D.C. Look, Washington.
They beat them 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I know.
Or whatever, or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, 14-7 game.
One of the more pathetic games you've ever seen in your life.
I had the Giants.
Yeah, look, I'm a Giants fan, so I say this with love and tenderness. They might not be an actual NFL team. They are probably the worst version of the Giants I've seen in a long, long time, if ever, in my adult life. You know, like you got to go back to the Pisarcik days of the New York Giants, and you know, when the Eagles were good and the Giants were bad in like the late 70s and into early 80s, like that bad kind of deal. So anyway, we say all this to say that I agree with you that it's 10 points is way too much for the Commanders to be laying to anybody at this point in time, especially a division opponent. I don't know how much better Tommy DeVito can get, or maybe I should say, I don't know how much worse Tommy DeVito can get. But they did put up 17 garbage points against the Cowboys last week, so maybe there's some momentum they're building. Again, yeah, there's no way you could play Washington. It's Giants or pass. I would agree with you that much.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we're to bring to my original point, to bring it back, we're going to learn just how much worse. If the Giants don't cover this spread, okay, it means that they are just significantly worse than the second worst team in the league, which is probably the Patriots, right? So, I look at it a power rankings perspective. Typically, when you go through your power rankings, there's not that big of a gap between teams that are right next to each other, right? I mean, theoretically, you would say, all right, these teams are right next to each other in the power ratings. So if the team that's one spot above is at home, they should be laying about 3, maybe, right? 2, because the home field advantage isn't worth 3 anymore. So it's like 2, 2.5. But here, again, I have the Commanders bottom 5. And I think this number's crazy, and I think there is value. It'll be interesting to see how it moves during the week. Stay tuned to the WagerTalk.com live odds screen to see how the money moves there. Because right now, at plus 10, Giants are the value play, man.
Yeah, I mean, again, if it gets to 10.5, it feels like a buy point just from the numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I would wait and see if there's any money that comes in. However, I tend to agree with you. A lot of sharp side would lean towards taking the Giants here, and this might be at 9.5 before. But I would still roll the dice that, like, if Washington wins this thing, it's by a touchdown. Like, I don't know that 10 would necessarily come into play when you're talking about how bad this team is, right? So,
yeah.
If the Giants are going to keep this thing close, they might win it outright. But if they're going to lose, they're going to get their doors blown off, and 10's not going to matter. So, yeah, we'll look at it that way. All right, well, that'll do it for us here on this Hustle Short on Monday, November 14th. Again, full episode of the Hustle Show every Thursday, 7 o'clock right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Make sure you smash that like button. Hit subscribe as well if you want to be alerted to any of the betting content from WagerTalk. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at BrianPower_wins, on Instagram at BrianPowerWT. I'm at Mark Zinno, both places, Twitter and Instagram. Back tomorrow with another edition of the Hustle Short. And you guys keep it locked right here on WagerTalk TV. We appreciate it. Go cash some tickets tonight. Best of luck on all your bets. We'll talk to you tomorrow.